Hi, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I was thinking about this morning when I woke up, which was the provision of God for the Israelites when they came out of Egypt and into the wilderness and they were hungry. Hmm. God does provide. He's done it before and he will do it again. Absolutely. We know that God does the impossible. It tells us in His Word. We can read all the stories in the Bible about how He's done the impossible. And, if He couldn't do the impossible, what kind of God would we be trusting in? But, my God, He is the most powerful God there is. He knows everything. He's present everywhere, all at the same time. He is so cool. He's also kind and loving, and He loves to provide. So there is no other God like this God. He is the only one. God has provided for me and my family in many ways, and it's been so exciting. It's not fun being in lack. It's actually not fun at all. But in those times, we discovered the faithfulness of God. And when our children were really young, we went through a number of years where we were low on supplies, and at times it was a little frightening, wondering where the next meal on the same day was going to come from. But God was faithful, and food would arrive at the front door, sometimes just left there. I don't know where it came from, probably from friends, but often we didn't find out. And then there was money that just arrived in envelopes or handed to us or went into our account. God provided. It was absolutely incredible. And God sometimes, or even quite often, uses people to provide for our needs. And we don't necessarily have to tell people that we're lacking. We just need to pray. Because it says in Matthew 6:26, look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you more valuable than they? We live in a time when, there's so much more uncertainty. People have just lost jobs. It may be hard to get jobs from now on. We don't know. There may be more people who've never found themselves in lack before that are finding themselves with lack. And that is a scary thing. We've been there, we know, but we've also experienced the provision of the Lord. It says in Philippians 4:6, don't worry about anything, because worry doesn't do anything, it doesn't help. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. However God works, it's all supernatural. It's all miraculous. Doesn't matter whether He uses people or whether He does it some other way. Sometimes He puts the thought in someone's mind to go and help them, to provide some food or to give them some transport or to check up on how they are. I just love how He does that. And you know what? It's more enjoyable being the person that does the giving than it is, the person that's receiving. And I found that we've been in lack, and we've also been people, the ones that get to give as well. And it is so enjoyable being the one that hears the thought, did I get this right? Go and do what God tells you to do. Discover that you have been a blessing. It's very, very enjoyable indeed. So God can use people to help us, but sometimes He does it another way because He doesn't have to use people. He likes using people. Sometimes He does it in a way that looks far more amazing. He did this for the Israelites soon after He brought them out of Egypt, and it didn't take them long to get a little bit grumpy, those Israelites. Even though they were slaves back in Egypt, because they had plenty of food and water, they decided they wanted to go back. They were like, we should have stayed. We should have stayed. It's incredible how quickly they forgot the miraculous rescue that God ordained and delivered. He opened up the sea in front of them and they walked through because they were trapped. They were trapped between the sea and the enemy. But God opened up the sea so they could walk through to the other side. It was a very big sea, not a little one, and then they get through to the other side and God puts the sea down on the enemies and drowns them. What a miraculous event. So incredible. How could you forget something like that so quickly? I think I'd be talking about it for days, for years. God has worked miracles before and he can do it again. And if there's no people to use, he'll do it some other way. And soon after this, the Israelites are starting to complain because they're hungry, they're thirsty. But God's done it before, he can do it again. And there they are, grumbling and complaining about having no food. And so God decides to send them some manna. And manna means God sent. It means blessing, gift. Exodus 16:11 says, Then the Lord said to Moses, I have heard the Israelites' complaints. Now tell them, in the evening you will have meat to eat, and in the morning you will have all the bread you want. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. I would have thought that after the miraculous rescue from captivity, that they would already know that the Lord was their God. But worldly thinking entered their heads again. Can't say I never do that. I probably do. God wanted them to trust him. He loved them. He had already rescued them, and he wasn't about to leave them to die in the wilderness. As soon as there was another difficulty, they forgot how faithful God was to them. And you know what? We are like that too. We know that God has helped us out before. He's directed us. He's provided for us. And yet when a challenge turns up, our default seems worry. It seems to be worry, doesn't it? To fear and not to trust him. And then it starts coming out of our mouths as complaints, just like the Israelites. You know, when we do this, we're not trusting God. Exodus 16:4 says, same story. Then the Lord said to Moses, Lord, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Each day the people can go out and pick up as much food as they need for the day. I will test them in this to see whether or not they will follow my instructions. On the sixth day, they will gather food, and when they prepare it, there will be twice as much as usual. So God wanted the people to obey him, to show him they were putting their trust in him. He asked them to gather just enough manna for each day, and when they did this, there would be enough for the whole family. And there was. But some of the Israelites didn't trust and didn't obey. And so they picked up more than they needed and found that the next morning when they woke up, the manna had maggots in it. It smelled terrible and it was no longer edible. You know, there's always a few of us that just have to learn lessons the hard way, right? So I can be a bit like that sometimes. Hopefully I'm improving. My desire for independence gets the better of me. And sometimes I don't allow God the opportunity to provide for me and to supply my need, and I'm biting at the bit to have it now. So I start orchestrating. Well, that's just because I haven't got patience. That's basically all it is when I behave like that. And I'm not trusting when I behave like that. When I do not obey, I am not trusting. When we obey God's instructions, because his instructions are always good ones, when we obey his instruction, things will go a whole lot more smoothly than when we don't. The Israelites discovered that the manna was perfect every morning if they did it the way God instructed. He sent quail and manna. They were completely taken care of. There was no need to complain, no need to doubt, no need to disobey or stop trusting. God had done it before, and he was going to do it again. Trust in the Lord completely and do not rely on your own opinions. With all your heart, rely on him to guide you, and he will lead you in every decision you make. Proverbs 3:5. So, God can take care of you. He will take care of you if you let him. He can do it again. He did it before. He's going to do it again.